The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
8:13 is the time. The date is the 26th of May already. Can you believe it's the 26th of May? May is about in the history books for 2026.
It feels like this month has chugged on a little too much, though.
Really?
For me.
It's been long for you?
It has, and only because we've had a lot of things at United Way that we've been doing.
You have.
Right about this time.
That's right.
Yeah, but April was the same way, actually. We had a lot of events. So
Zach East is here from United Way of Southwest Michigan. It's time for the United We Thrive update. Zach East, his name and voice sound familiar because he filled in for me last week. So thanks again. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yes. This
appreciate
is
that.
job number 2, but United Way is job number 1. So
Yes.
in case all the hats are confusing, they are just as confusing to me as they are to all of the listenership, I suppose.
Tell us about United Way of Southwest Michigan. You've been working on a whole bunch of events. You work on this all year long.
Mm-hmm.
You talk with community partners and you help community organizations achieve their missions. But let's talk about United Way of Southwest Michigan. Let's do as you call it in radio, a reset.
Yes. Normally, it would be. I think the best way to really remind people what United Way does is that we're there as kind of the glue to really assist the other community nonprofits and other municipal partners, government, chambers, economic development, all those organizations that really are the glue that sometimes are working on projects that certainly affect. And have programs that affect the good of the community, but they may not be all working necessarily together or have the funding that they need. And United Way is often seen as a bit of that glue for those community organizations to be together, to talk together, to work on common projects like solving questions about housing,
yes.
which is one piece that we did recently with the housing study with Cornerstone Alliance.
Yeah.
We were a sponsor of that, among many other things, but also could be as simple as, is there a program that we're funding at the YMCA of Greater Michiana across the Niles and Benton Harbor camp and St. Joe and Benton Harbor campuses that help with kids getting great education at an early age, among many, many, many other programs that United Way has helped to fund for many years. And we're actually in the middle of that funding cycle right now, where, again, United Way is really, if you look at us, kind of as almost like the chief fundraiser. We're the organization that will help fill in the gaps for a lot of these programs across the many organizations that we work with throughout the 3-county area, Berrien, Cass, and Van Buren, to help them kind of make sure that they get the funding to continue or expand some of the programming that we do.
Yeah.
Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you, because it's not something that I think is unknown to anybody, is that these are some really challenging times, certainly for everybody right now personally, but they're really challenging for some of the nonprofits who immediately lost a lot of federal and state funding in the last year plus, where those bits and pieces of funding that they received for things like early childhood education or health and wellness or, just basic needs and necessities, a lot of those things became question marks that slowly either faded away or their funding changed or something of the sort.
Yeah.
And United Way is certainly not prepared to replace all of that money for those programs.
Right.
We would love to get to a place where that's the place, but folks would really have to step up and donate.
Reality today.
No, it really isn't, and it would be unrealistic for me to ask everybody to just step up and take their life savings and throw it to us.
Right.
That would be great, but honestly, it's not sustainable. One of the reasons United Way exists is to not only also be that glue for the organizations and to solve common needs together, but it's to also use leverage. It's the opportunity to take in dollars and leverage them for much more.
Yeah.
Getting grants, sponsorships, doing these events that we do that help also kind of bring the stories forward of the organizations that we work with, plus our own programs, like you've heard Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, or VITA. Certainly you've heard of, the Volunteer United program. You've heard of events like School Supply Spectacular in Cass County. So there is a myriad of, plus 211, of course, is probably our biggest funded program. That's the free resource hotline that anybody can call and get information and kind of point it in the right direction. Whether you've got an urgent need, like I don't know where I'm going to make my next mortgage payment, or I really need access to food, all the way to I'm having trouble with, caregiving for my mother or my father, and I need assistance and being pointed in the right direction.
I can't tell you the number of times that I've seen on social media in those group boxes where they say, look, I'm on my last leg here. I'm being evicted. I've got no job. I've got kids. I've got nowhere to go. Can somebody just guide me to help? And inevitably somebody says, call 211.
Yeah.
They can direct you to the resources that can help.
And understanding what 211 really is, it is a giant call center that we have for the region that we pay into with our sister organizations within the Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, Lansing, Jackson area that we pay bits and pieces with, along with St. Joseph County as well. We end up actually funding a piece of that call center that deals with those questions 24 hours a day, and they do nothing but collect information from each of the area organizations, municipalities, the state, federal programs, and much more, and they will help point you in the right direction for free. And that's part of what 211, aims to do and improve upon every year with the service that they make. And the calls keep, unfortunately, they're coming in more often because the need has become greater for not only everyday Americans, everyday residents of Southwest Michigan, but also people who have certainly already been in that vulnerable population that is having trouble kind of getting out of their situation or improving their situation.
Yeah.
That's also another place to kind of remind people of is we would love to help everybody. But there's a vulnerable group of people that we tend to really concentrate on, and that's the ALICE population. Mm-hmm. You've heard of ALICE probably spoken in the past, but that's asset limited, income constrained, but employed people, really working families or seniors who tend to be, again, not in the poverty level, because there are a lot of programs to help those who are actually in poverty and need immediate assistance. We do some of that work, but not a great deal of it. It's really the people who are on that cusp. They're at one, crisis away from dipping into poverty and having a serious family situation that might take them away from having a car, losing a job, losing a house, perhaps even breaking up their families. And there are a lot of programs within Southwest Michigan that help support those vulnerable populations from really dipping into that very vulnerable state that people can be in.
So whether it's helping out the vulnerable populations or the people who need a tax assistance or people who want to read to their kids using the Dolly Parton Imagine Library. Love that. United Way of Southwest Michigan is there. So we thank you for doing that. What's the call to action?
It would really be, I'd love to take your money, and I'd love to utilize it for all the programs that we have. But I'll be honest with you, not everybody can part with dollars. Lots of folks might be able to part with their knowledge, their time, their ability to be great advisors.
Volunteers.
Exactly. We always need people to not only volunteer to be part of committees and boards and things at different times of the year, but we have a volunteer impact committee that's actually coming together to help make the funding decisions for this community right now. People in our community make funding decisions for the community, not the staff of United Way, not the people at United Way worldwide in Washington, D.C. It's just us. That's part of what United Way just strives to always deal with, and we have since 1945, when the Upton families came together and created the Twin City Community Chest. That's where this organization came out of, and it'll never change. It'll always be locally focused, and it'll always be volunteers and others getting together to help make those decisions for where those dollars go in the community.
Love that. To learn more about United Way of Southwest Michigan, Zach, where should we send them?
UWSM.org. Come on over there, and you can sign up for our newsletter, hit our social media. You can take a look at many hours worth of video that we have produced of stories and ways to get involved, volunteer projects, certainly all of our events that we do to help you get an understanding for what your time or your donation dollars could really help achieve here.
All right, Zach East, United Way of Southwest Michigan, thank you for sharing that.
Thanks, Ken.
Powerful impact in the community. We appreciate you. All right, it's 8:23. WSJM Morning Show continues. News from the Bear Den is coming up next.